Well, welcome to the new Empathic Experience. Our core focus for this session is on the joys and pains of working with empaths. I am AliNICOLE, creator of the Empathic Empires Strikes Back and also the Empathic Empire-preneur Authority. I am grateful once again to be joined by the Empathic Power Enhancer and author of Harnessing the Power of Being an Empath, and that is Gina Gardiner, and also joined by Chief Chakra Awakener Brenda Jacobson, and she helps empaths to really get to the root of their greatness and their finances and more using a higher level of chakra work. So this is going to be really exciting. This will be a conversational training where we will be each providing our perspectives about what we found to be the joys and pains of working with empaths. And this session will best serve coaches and consultants who are either already working with empaths or they're considering serving in that community. And we do have an upcoming session called the New Empathic Experience, the New Now and the New You, and you'll be able to hear more about these topics at length. So, Gina and Brenda, I am so happy that we are going to be having this conversation today. So, thanks. Let's get started.
Sounds
Yeah,
great to me.
great to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So, Gina, I'd love to start with you. Um, if you don't mind, start sharing a little bit about your work with empaths over the years and what you find to be their strengths or some of their primary places of disempowerment. I would also love to hear you share about what you most like about serving empaths, and then I'm going to ask Brenda about her experiences of mentoring and sort of advising, empaths as well. So, Gina, definitely want to hear um, what you have to share.
I love working with empaths because they have the capacity to be incredibly expansive, to take on
Mm-hmm.
board a whole range of um, energies and thoughts that are perhaps not available to those people who are not empaths. And it's something that I have a lot of experience with. And when they are able to allow themselves to get out of their own way, they
Mm-hmm.
can make the most amazing progress very quickly. But it's my experience that many empaths, and this is not true of them all, but many
Mm-hmm.
empaths have had a struggle on their journey. And at one level, it could be that because they were different and they didn't fit in, they always felt as if they sat on the outside of what was going on. They weren't understood, that they often have real problems with self-worth. At the other end of the scale, many empaths that I've met have been through significant abuse, physical, sexual, emotional abuse, um, and or they then continued in adulthood to have fairly toxic relationships with other people. And I think at the heart of that is because their relationship with themselves has been um, held back. And so they don't believe that they're worthy. They don't believe they deserve. One of the big challenges of working with empaths, in my experience, and this I'm making a generalization, but
Yes.
I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about those where there is a real challenge, is that taking them from the place where they believe things at a head level, that they can see the logic of things and very, very clear about that, but taking it on board at a heart level and actually embodying the fact that they deserve, that they have these amazing skills and insights and intuitions and connections to source, getting them to actually own that in a way that is productive to them and to others can sometimes be a challenge. And they'll move forward and then something will happen and it's there you are, look, I don't deserve it. It's not working for me. And I think one of the particular ways this actually manifests itself is many empaths have a problem with money, that they think that because they're doing something spiritual, that they shouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
charging, that because of that, they don't value their own time and their own worth. So they'd go off to Sainsbury's and wouldn't think anything, or Walmart's if you're in the States, of buying a loaf of bread and expecting to pay for it. Or if their car needs servicing, they'll pay for the person to service their car. And yet they don't value their own time.
Right.
Or their own experience. And many of them have done course after course after course. They've read books, they've done everything. And they still stay in that victim place where it's out there rather than internalized. Right. And if you are working with empaths, then it's quite a tricky balance between being supportive and gentle and holding a loving space, and challenging and not allowing them to believe in the illusion of their limitations. And so at times having to give them quite a significant metaphorical kick, saying, you talk about your purpose, and they can always talk about their purpose endlessly. You say you add value to your clients, and you can demonstrate that in spades. So where's the balance between all of that and you valuing you? And it's one of those things where you will often find, if you work with empaths, that you think you've made progress and it's one step forward, one step back, until they have the confidence and they let go of that old illusion, which is a bit almost sometimes as if it's on a piece of elastic. And you've got to cut that elastic, those chains to the past, and allow them, help them in a very, it's very important that it's not done in a way where you allow them to be needy, because they're often very needy and they attract needy clients. It has to be done in a way where they step into their own power and they start to believe in their power and use it and value it. So it's a challenge, but it's a real joy.
Yes, and I have to say, I agree and co-sign with everything, and I can completely, I can totally relate. And I'll definitely share, some of my experiences as well, but you definitely hit the hammer on the nail for sure. And thank you so much, because I loved everything that you shared, and I really appreciate that, because it really was, in depth for sure. So Brenda, please share about your experience, because I know you've done some mentoring, kind of in advising, different level of work than what Gina and I do, primarily with our empathic work, but you being an empath and also having those around you who are empathic as well, and you've had to definitely shine some light on a few areas. So definitely want to hear about your experience.
And I love the intersection with everything that Gina said, and how it intersects with my experience. So it's not at all different. I can shine kind of a unique light on it, because I really view everything through the energy body, the work that I do through the chakras. And when Gina talked about their inability to claim value in what they share with people, actually charge for that, there really is a strong concept in the integrity of the energy body that is based in righteous exchange. And it goes both ways. So if we don't feel comfortable charging somebody for our work, they're not going to see any value in what we do, and it's going to just wash off of them. So it really is to everybody's benefit to look at the righteous exchange, the energetic exchange that we're giving. That's one of the things that I really ground myself in. The other thing in the first chakra is, if you don't have a strong container built in that first chakra to hold everything that you're bringing into your life, it'll flow in and out, in and out, in and out. So there's a lot of basis to that financial grounding for empaths, and it's so critical as we move into the future, into this new world that is right upon us now. The other thing that Gina had talked about was bringing it into the heart, speaking from the heart. And I love that neuroscience has now shown us that we have three hearts. They call it three hearts. We have the heart, or three minds. We have the mind in the head. We have brain in our hearts that have actually more neurons than we do in the brain in our head. And we have the brain in our third chakra, or in the solar plex area. That is what people talk about, you know, oh, my gut's telling me. There really is science now behind that, which never existed before. And so there is, you know, there's just, as we move forward, there's so much validation of the work that we are all doing with the heart, the head, the heart, and the gut.
Yes, that intuition. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And what I do, so the joy that I have in working with empaths is just participating in their transformation potential and bringing all of these gifts into the world. As empaths, we are blessed with the gift of our empathic powers, but along with that comes the responsibility. We were given these for a reason, and that reason is becoming so clear now in this new world that's coming, that this new world needs all of us to step up and step into our power and really balance ourselves. And, you know, so if we can clear and balance our own stuff through the energy body and be able to really comfortably stand in our own power, it is just brilliant to watch people make that transformation, into their own power and owning that. And understanding that they're not alone in that. They have this community that is building around them, because all empaths are being awakened now to step up. They're made to feel uncomfortable with their jobs or their lives, or something just doesn't feel right anymore. And often they can't really understand where that discomfort is coming from. But now that they have a community and resources available to them, it's going to be brilliant watching them move forward. The pains that I have, the challenges that I have working with empaths is, especially through the energy body, it's not a once and done solution. It is something that needs to be continually, it's like a garden. You can't just water a plant and expect it to grow into maturity. You have to continually nurture it. And it's the same thing with the energy body. So one of my challenges, to be honest with you, is that as I'm working with some of these empaths, some of my own stuff gets triggered. And I show up barely a step ahead of the people that I'm training and coaching, because they've triggered me, and I have to be able to go through and do my own process once I get out of that call. I have to have the wherewithal to put my stuff on the side, but not to sweep it under the rug or to bury it, but to just put it aside and know that when the call is over or the course is over, I will take it off the shelf and, and practice what I preach. So it's, so that's one of my big challenges, just watching people that are so disempowered and diminished by societies. We still have that old group that is there, and some of them are my family members.
They show up in multiple ways, don't they?
They just, and they're there with their tale of who we are and who we have shown them that we are willing to be. A lot of this comes back to ourselves. You know, I created a story of who I wanted to be in the world, and it varied. I was a chameleon. It varied from person to person and group to group. Who did I have to be to fit in and be accepted? And we created those tales in other people's heads of who we are. Now we have to go through the exercise of bringing them the truth of who we are and allowing them to move away from us or to embrace us or whatever is right for them, but not being attached to that. So that's challenging to watch empaths go through that, dimming their light so that they can fit in. And I think the reason it becomes so challenging is because I've been there and I am still there in a lot of cases. So.
Yeah, and that happens for sure. The evolutionary work that we render to others, like you said, sometimes it is inviting us to be able to come higher in who we are, because even those of us who teach, it's never a one and done, as you mentioned. It's just not a one and done thing. as it relates to this evolutionary process, because we're always growing, we're always evolving. And I love everything that you both shared, and I can attest to all of this. I feel like you all have basically spoke what I was going to speak to, and that just shows the commonality of when people are working with empaths. And then because we are empaths, we know ourselves, and so very much if you want to call it a profile, so to speak. One of the things I do want to say before I get into sharing a little bit more about my own joys and pains and different things is, of course, we've all had some calls that we've done together, our works that we've done, and stepping into this new format of being an empath. And you all talked about how the limitations, around charging and the value and the self-worth. And my higher work is about really helping individuals to shift to leveraging their high sensitivity to be high-end expressions. And really empaths are called to be these high-end expressions. And that's why the time is now, just like what you both were sharing, is to embody the new levels of power that Gina was speaking about, and also clearing out, Brenda, as you were talking about these different areas that keep them back. And we are allergic to these frameworks. And so it is time to really step up and come into this higher space. And that's the importance of the work that, we all are doing together. Something that I want to share, and then of course I'm going to come back to both of you, is in my early empathic work, primarily was in the evolutionary metamorphosis stage, as leaderpreneurs were having their journey, and they were, at that time, they were undergoing the business and branding cocoon process that I would take them through in a work that was called Your Business Cocoon Launch. And this particular work was a component of my early signature work that was called Divine Human Butterflies, and it later became a component of my major signature work in that area that was called, the New Human Metamorphosis Experience. And what I loved about working with empaths in that particular phase of the journey that brought me great joy was their commitment to the betterment of who they were and the inner work, their commitment to skilling up, starting to own more of their power, that Gina has been talking about, but also being able to accelerate their evolution so that they could become better leaders. And also, I realized that they worked very well in cohort groups. So they were looking for the accountability and everything that Gina was talking about early on, the joys that she really liked and the strengths that she found in empaths. I said I co-sign with all of that because I saw those same things. And that's what makes you really excited, to work with them. And so ones who were leaders and felt their importance to be the best versions of themselves so that they can then give that to others, that was the joy component for me, is that they were hungry and excited for more growth, in evolution. And now that I do more of the higher end empathic empire building, I found that these types of leaderpreneurs, they really work best for that level of work. Now, the pains for me, which, many, many years ago, was actually not so much in the clients that I was working with in programs and processes. It was actually in the mentoring that I would do with what I would call nonlinear clients. And that would be friends, colleagues, even some team members that were receiving benevolent scholarships, from me. They would come with a lot of resistance and actually wanted to slow down their evolution and ultimately try to control the process. I mean, this is a process that's being offered to them via a scholarship. And, but yeah, they would actually try to be in control. So I wasn't really able to take them through like literal processes and programs. So they're just getting kind of guidance and advice and calls and some mentoring. But as we know, within these types of processes, empaths actually really do need some type of structure and framework that can be expansive, where it's not too rigid, for them, but they do need the guidance to understand these different levels of development. At least in my work with the metamorphosis, it's a little bit different than just kind of, traditional coaching. But one of the things that was heartbreaking, and even for them, would be that as they did come into some levels of awareness, they would realize that they've actually become the self-absorbed and needy energies, those energy drainers and controllers. They would become those narcissistic abusers, all the things, again, that Gina was talking about earlier, that she has kind of found within a commonality of a profile. Not all, as she mentioned, but some who have had these backgrounds and different, types of experiences. But yeah, they would actually become, those energies that they've often allowed themselves to entertain. And even though this was not their intention, of course, to be behaving in these patterns, but because they weren't taking the guidance that was required to make these shifts, they could play out those very controlling roles. And sometimes it's in very subtle ways. And Gina probably can definitely attest to this part, where they may not take an action at a certain point or a certain time, and kind of create these confirmation biases and different aspects to argue for their limitations of, what, this works best for me, this works, and never really allowing themselves to stretch beyond being comfortable of trying to do things their way. And because they have absorbed a lot of the things from being in controlled situations, that's their opportunity to kind of have their space of control. So I mean, it's interesting, but and even though they would get these revelations and feel very bad, about, wow, I can't believe I've now kind of become the individual that maybe not as extreme, obviously, but they've become those things that they have taken on and absorbed or allowed themselves, like I said, to be treated a certain way. Though they would get the revelation, so much had occurred. I always say this, it could have been avoided. Things that were unnecessary happen in those spaces, and they cause more pain for themselves. So you can imagine that people who are actually trying to guide them or just give them some type of support, that can cause levels of pain, for them, as well, when they could have been further along. So it would also sadden me at times, to see them go through unnecessary pain in several areas, all because they just wouldn't, I could say, maybe follow guidance accordingly. But one of the things that I did was, for me, they became more of case studies. And I would start to create content about that. I also developed self-study publications and platforms to support them versus me, giving physical time and energy. And honestly, I recommend that other coaches and consultants or mentors do this as well, and only give your time and energy to accelerated empaths, like the leaderpreneurs I was speaking about earlier, that when I worked with them in program, they have the success because they're excited, they're ready. I really honestly didn't run into a lot of challenges with people even having worth problems or different areas like that. They were very ready and committed, and just needed to know what those next steps were. And that's why I found it to be, like I said, a great joy, definitely, to work with them. But I definitely want to reiterate again that if you are a coach or a consultant or a mentor, definitely create publications or different platforms that certain levels of empaths can be accountable, to themselves. Because I believe we do empaths a huge disservice, and even ourselves as well, when we try to champion someone through a metamorphosis journey. And they're not going to surrender to that process, of evolution, because at those stages, it actually does have to be no different than a doctor when a woman is pregnant. There's different phases and stages that the baby develops. And if some things aren't grounded and it's not critical, they don't do the critical things in those stages, then the success rate is not going to be, it's not going to be good. But if they want to be able to kind of control some dynamics, then they need to have their own process that they can guide themselves through, and work those things out themselves. So I know we'll get, kind of more into a lot of different other areas when we have our session, the new empathic experience for the new now and the new you. And during that session, Gina and I are definitely going to be offering some more advice for coaches and mentors about how to go about working with empaths. And then Brenda is going to be able to add tremendous value, because she's going to be also sharing her thoughts and commentaries about the suggested advice. And then she'll have some other components to speak about in terms of the next level of the chakra work. So definitely excited, about that. So ladies, this has been great. Before Gina closes us out, does anyone have anything else you want to share?
No, I just really love everything that both of you guys have said, and I think that we're headed to a very powerful future if we can help all of these empaths step into their power.
Definitely. And I've appreciated everything that you ladies have shared. It's been wonderful. I'm super excited about all the emerging developments and endeavors and initiatives that we have for empaths. So Gina, we turn it over to you.
Thank you. If you imagine that there is a door opening into the light, every empath has a purpose and has a reason, has a whole set of experiences and insights to offer. And if you are working with empaths, one of the things I would say is be really mindful that you are not complicit in their holding back, because it's so easy to get sort of sucked into letting them off the hook. And it's time, I think, for us all to stand in our power and recognize that there is much to be done, that time is critical, and that you don't have to do it on your own. And one of the joys of working with the two of you is that we provide a holistic platform for empaths and the people who work with empaths to step into being the best version of them, which is the foundation of being the best version of them tomorrow and next week and a month and so on. So thank you, ladies. And, for those of you who are listening, look in the description. It tells you about the three of us and our background, and also talks to you about what we're doing and what we're offering you, because now is not the time to hesitate. Now is the time to step into the light, to step into your power, and to make the difference that you are here to do. We need you. No time to be allowing yourself to stay stuck because of fear in your comfort zone. It is time to step out as an empath or as a supporter and coach of empaths. It's time now to up the ante and to make that difference, because you are needed. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next call.